Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Appreciate you all being here. Today what I want to do is I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison of the two layer 2s that I think is going to be the winners in the long term. I'm not saying that other layer 2s aren't going to make it well. There's a lot that are. A lot are going to die off because there are so many layer 2s. There are so many fucking layer 2s, guys. We do not need this many. But there are two specifically that I'm betting on, both financially and then I guess I don't know, whimsically or spiritually, the two that I think is going to do the best long term. And I'm talking about base and linear. And I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison of them. Yes, I think they're both good. So this is not going to be a poo-poo shit talk on one or the other. But I do like layer 2s. I think that they're some of the best risk versus reward to, one, put your money into for the tokens, and then to for using for exchanges, using it for the DeFi and TradFi and everything to make some money on it on the side. So with that being said, we'll look more at the ecosystems today than the actual tokens. Base does not have a specific token yet. They've made a lot of announcements about it, how they're likely going to, but not exactly what it's going to do. Got my bets on that. Probably do more videos on that down the run. You know, Linea does have their own token, but again, this is going to be more of an ecosystem comparison. I personally have used both. I'm going to continue to use both, and that's what today's video is. If there's other layer 2s or layer 1s, I don't care, that you want to see a comparison on, let me know. I'll gladly do them. I like those styles of videos. They're more interesting to me. So if they're more interesting to you as well, let me know. I'll do more of them. Let me know down in the comments below. Do you like these layer 2s? Are there others that you bet on more? Gladly have a conversation. I'll jump in with you guys. I enjoy doing it. So let's kind of jump right into this now. Base and Linea, what the heck is going on with them? Let's do a comparison. So how do we compare these two? Let's do a real quick baseline here. Right, they're both Ethereum layer 2s. Right, they help with scaling and mostly essentially scaling and lowering fees for Ethereum. That's really what layer 2s are out there for. Ethereum's not going anywhere, guys. If you think Ethereum's going to disappear in a couple of years, I have to very strongly disagree. It's got more institutional involvement than any other crypto, more than Solana. And so it's between what's on directly on Ethereum, which is a lot more than most people think, and then what's built on all of the layer 2s, because that's also, you know, trickle effect tree down from Ethereum. It's here to stay. And some layer 2s are just more intriguing to companies and dApps than others. And I think that Base and Linea are two of the best ones for it. So if we do a side-by-side comparison right now of things, how are they right now? How are they going to go in the future? Right. So if we're looking at Base right now, it's backed by Coinbase. Right. That alone is enough for me, at least, to have conviction that's going to be here for the long haul. Unless you think that the second largest exchange, right behind Binance, and Coinbase has been catching up to them from what I've seen, is going to disappear. Your own opinion, I guess, can be there. I think it's going to be here for a long while. Right. Coinbase financially backs Base, financially backs several of the crypto that's on there that helps run, like Aero. Right? Coinbase has their money put into Aero as well, which is why it's been the leader, up to 60% of all of DeFi on Base. Base has driven very high transactional activity and been very consistent with the top layer 2s for daily transactions pretty much since 2024. Right? It's very standard of having the most money coming in or top of the most. Now, at one point, Base was processing significantly more transactions than all other layer 2s combined, even surpassing ones like Arbitrum and Optimism combined, again, for the total throughput. So Base has kind of already been chosen, or it appears to be that's getting more and more chosen for institutional adoption. Right? They're having their whole Base growth for their base app or professional app. I swear they changed the name 30 times of what they're calling it, where they have companies can come in and they can pay bills throughout Base, likely through Aero. They can end up paying their employees directly on it. JP Morgan has dumped a bunch of stable coins onto Base. So they've been picking up the institutional side of things. All right, they're now doing derivatives and futures very openly on it. They're going to start putting stocks on Base. So their growth has been quite impressive. And when it comes to like revenues and fees, Base has gotten up to 60% of reported L2 revenue at times. Again, that's huge, right? And it really just comes down to people trust Coinbase. And I mean, that's the backing. Pretty damn good backing. Base also has, again, they have the institutional and they have the retail adoption. They've had a couple years to build it and it's been working really well, right? Millions of users transact and hold assets on Base, right? Again, the revenue is real. Every time people transact or move things over, money comes into the bank. The liquidity is very deep, meaning it's going to be really hard for Coinbase to shut down. So that's why we don't have another presumably Wintermute issue back in 1010 or anything like that where things just plummet. Coinbase can survive. If they take a massive hit, they're going to rebound, they're going to be fine. So safety and security is a huge aspect of that. So by today's metrics, Base is pretty effing safe. And that's, yeah, if I'm going to put money onto a layer 2, that's reasons why that's one of the two that I choose. Now, if we compare it directly over to Linea is certainly a little different. Linea is a lot newer, right? And a lot of people look down on Linea because they see a price action go down like this, ignoring how almost every other crypto has gone down like this. When you have something that comes out new, and now we're talking Linea token for a second, yeah, early investors got in, they saw it shoot up, they bought it at a quarter of a penny, they see it at 3 pennies, they're going to sell. That's why jumping into a new crypto is always risky. Got into it much later for that reason. Get big rewards if you get in early, but timing really does matter. But aside from that, when it comes to the actual ecosystem, the technology, the backing of Linea sold me onto it. Right? So again, Linea is developed by Consensus, right? It is the company that is behind MetaMask. They have Foxy, the nice little meme token. A little shout out to that one. And it's ran by Joe Lubin, or he was the one who helped found it. Joe Lubin's a co-founder of Ethereum. So as soon as I saw that one of the co-founders of Ethereum, who owns a company that one of the big things they do is a strategic reserve of Ethereum, and now they made a layer 2 for Ethereum, that insider knowledge, plus all the networking that comes with it, bar none. And that's why I'm betting on Linea in the long term. And I'm starting to put a little bit into the token itself, but the ecosystem, it's going to be really hard for that thing to get wrecked based off of he knows everyone that's in the field. He is one of the everyone that's in the field. And when you have leadership like that, it's really hard for it not to be seen as a very good thing. When we look at the technology of it, Linea came out, considered as a roll-up, or the ZK EVM model. The short version of it is they tie themselves in as closely to Ethereum as possible. And again, I'm a big fan of Ethereum. I think it's going to be here for the long haul. I think it's going to be right behind Bitcoin, essentially, always. And the way that they set it up is that Linea provides very strong security guarantees and faster finality compared to a lot of the others like Optimism in terms of their proofs. So this tech is increasingly seen as kind of like the future of Ethereum scaling and has very strong developer appeal. So again, in simple terms, Base uses Optimism proofs, Linea uses the validity proofs, right? And it's just a fundamental architectural difference. It doesn't make one better than the other in this case. It does make them different. Let's go and talk about the numbers for a couple of seconds, right? TVL, growth metrics, all that fun shit. All right, Linea reached over 1 billion in DeFi TVL, right? And driven mostly by protocols like Aave, Ethrex, which is their main DEX that they have, and Renzo, as well as a couple of their incentive programs. All right, that's a strong ass signal of capital attraction so early, given again the fact it's so youthful and with all the competition that's involved. Hitting 1 billion in DeFi that early is a pretty big deal. Again, a lot of that comes from the backing support and close-knit ties towards Ethereum. right? Ethereum or Linea's ecosystem emphasized the DeFi. They push a lot of incentive programs, which really brings a lot of retail in. That was the other big thing that got me into it, is that there's a lot of airdrops, there's a lot of rewards, there's a lot of reasons to be active on Linea. Because it's new, they got to grow on two sides, or at least that's the model they're choosing, and I'm fully on board. They're growing with the incentives towards dApps and institutions to build upon it, and they have the incentives for people to hop in and actively use it to have that capital rotation and flywheel in. So they get both institutions and retail. They're doing a pretty good job with the growth of it, again, if you're looking at the ecosystem specifically. And they got a pretty good tech advantage. Again, it's kind of considered up at the top end as far as layer 2 scaling's ability to go right now. Their goal is to grow enough to use all that high-end scaling, but they're looking pretty good at it. Their goal is to grow enough to use all that high-end scaling, but they're looking pretty good at it. Their capital efficiency, again, their TVL growth indicates that their use cases is now past experimentation. They're growing consistently. That's the short of it. Is they got already, after just a short time of being released, they're already on a continuous financial growth. So it's not like they're losing money. Again, we got to keep things separate between what does the token look like at the moment, because the whole freaking market sucks, versus how is the actual ecosystem going. If the ecosystem's growing well, you know it's going to at the very least be stable and long term. You can compare that to Avalanche. Freaking crypto, love Avalanche, haven't bought it, but they do so much better the ecosystem than the token. So it's one of those that if you're into Avalanche, you probably had a hard time the last couple of years. It just hasn't jumped up in price action. But the ecosystem of Avalanche brings in so much more money than you probably think, unless you've been very much tied into investing and studying Avalanche. But what that tells me for AVAX for a second is it's going to be around. Right? Because they are constantly making money. The ecosystem and the company is very solid. Linea is already there, and it's a year out. Doing a great job. It's at a very good space. So I said I was going to do a comparison. So I got to say which one's better, right? Again, no poo-poo on either one of these. But if I say who's winning right now, it's Base. It's Base. And the reason why I'm saying it's Base, they've been around longer. Not exactly the reason, but because they've been around longer and they've been doing well, they're further along. I can't sit here and tell you that Linea is doing just as well as Base. They're not. Base has had a lot more time to grow. They got a similar size advantage of the backing, but Base has done a lot more. They've had a lot more time to do well. So short to midterm, Base is going to win. So, I mean, it's not a bad idea, not financial advice, nothing here ever is. But if you're ever looking on the stock end of things, keep an eye on Coinbase stock, of where it ebbs and flows goes. I do think that it's going to be around for a long period of time. And again, just to tie in with stocks, sure, Linea, you can always look at Consensus or SharpLink, because there's deep connections with that as well. But yeah, Base with the integration of Coinbase and how well Coinbase is doing and what they're doing, that's a massive moat to help just protect growth and keep retail users in. It's not going anywhere, right? I mean, anyone who wants to get into crypto for the first time, or it's been a while, they go to Coinbase or Binance. In the US, that's definitely more of Coinbase. So if we're looking long-term bullish, I'm not going to say Linea is going to win, but I'm going to say that gets much closer to a tie. I think Linea is going to catch up pretty damn quick in like the scale of time, right? I'm not saying in 3 months, but like 2 to 3 years. Yeah, I think Linea as an ecosystem is going to catch up very well to Base. A lot of it has to do again with tokenomics, which I didn't discuss in this video, but I love how Linea is tied in so tightly to Ethereum. Short version. Linea uses Ethereum as gas fees. Okay, wonderful. There's always a little leftover, right? And 20% of that leftover goes to buying Ethereum and burns it. So Linea helps keep Ethereum deflationary. The other 80% goes into buying Linea and burning that, which helps keep that one more deflationary. And even though that they're still releasing tokens, it's on a downward trajectory scale to where there's less and less tokens being released over the next 10 years, or at least now at this point, I think the next 9 years. And I think for a long term, I think that's great. I think they have a great way of scaling the tokenomics to help keep everything more and more stable as time goes on, as more products and more dApps and more TVL comes into play. It's only going to help keep more stable growth and have a nice steady upward trajectory, which is what we want in investments. Yes, okay, we always want to see the 20x and then hold, but the slower something goes up, the longer it stays up, and there's less of a retrace. So there's my short little comparison of base first Linea. I think they're both great. What layer 2s, if any, do you guys use? Or what dexes do you guys use so that way I can indirectly then see which layer 2 or what system you guys use? I'm very curious. And if you guys like little comparisons here, let me know. I'll do more. I've done Quant to Chainlink or XRP. I've done Hbar compared to a few. As long as I'm familiar with the tokens, I'll gladly hop in and do a comparison. And if you put in the comments, I'll let you guys know how likely I am. I'm not going to promise I'm going to do every one you ask, but if I tell you I'm going to do one, I will. I'll stick to that. So, as always, guys, thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it. Let me know anything you guys want to tell me down below, and I'll be here to talk to you guys again soon. Peace.